hope everybody's doing good, staying safe, doing art. We're still in the beginning of the year, so hope you get a chance to create a lot of great work. So today we're going to continue drawing, but I thought um, it will be a good exercise and drawing to kind of put together everything in a drawing that we have kind of seen or drawn in these past few weeks. Okay, so um, bear with me here when I show you some of the things we've done. Um, okay, maybe in just this past 3 or 4 weeks in this 2 hour sessions. So I have paper here. This is the paper I'm gonna use, and you're gonna use your paper to do your drawing. So this is 8 and 8. The normal um, size for drawing and letter, the letters you get in the mail and stuff like that. 8.5 inches by 11. Okay, so sorry about that. But I'm going to show you right now some of the things we have done. Um, we have, and I believe these are in somewhat an order. I know, and if you see something that really interests you, um, you haven't seen or you haven't done, um, you can find the video also of this drawing, okay, of this artwork. So here we have a house in which we did perspective, okay. Um, it was a 2 point perspective in the horizon. So I don't want to go too much in detail, but there's a video for it for us to make the house look like this, like it is, you know, um, in an angle and kind of going out into the distance from both sides. Okay. So if you're interested in doing this, there is a video. This is something that we're gonna put in practice in this drawing that we're gonna do just now. Okay. Then from 2 point perspective, you see the 2 points here, one here to the left and one here to the right in the horizon, and it's kind of outside. The drawing we're gonna do today also is outside, and I'll explain you why in a moment. We went to another video or drawing or exercise in which we drew kind of like a city. You see, we didn't go too much in depth. Um, this is this came after, so this is a video after, but you could watch it before the one I just. You could watch this video actually, or do this drawing before the one I just showed you, because this is 1 point. You see the point right here, where everything, not everything, but every line in the side goes in an angle like this. You see, you understand? So um, that's 1 point perspective, and the horizon is going right through this point. It's just we don't see it because there are buildings right here in front of us, right? Horizon always exists even though we don't see it. And yeah, we'll use some of this um, techniques in this drawing. But like I said, the drawing we're gonna do today is not in the city; it's outside. So because it's gonna be outside, right, with nature, we will do perspective, yes, like this with one, with the horizon and the points on perspective. But we'll use other aspects of perspective we have learned that don't have to do with points or lines, and we'll go over those. Okay. And then time, the last video, you could watch these videos in any order, by the way. Is this still life? And even though you may think it's not that much perspective, there's the rule here of juxtaposition, right? That something in front of something means they are closer to us. So that's just common sense. If something is blocking something behind, that means from your point of view, this object is closer to us, in front of us. So the one behind is farther down. Okay. The shading, yes, that's the main technique in this drawing that we did. So besides shading it, right, with the light coming from the top left, the shading or shadow the object has is on the right to the bottom, also bottom and right side. But the main thing is the juxtaposition of the shade, right? So if something was bright or light, we shaded the opposite side. So you see how the wall is a little more shaded on this side, right? So we play around, and this is something that's done in drawings. Just keep that in mind to emphasize the a bright thing. You put dark what's on the other side. That's actually claroscuro. The term claroscuro is that game of light and shadow. Um, Okay. Oh, yeah. And the other thing, just keep in mind, and we'll use this in this drawing today. We're about to get started. Is the I'm gonna say kind of like platforms or levels. So think of the foundation or ground where things are standing. It could be a table or the ground for trees, or a ground or floor in a building. Think of it, look at my pencil as if there's levels. So my pencil is here, another level is up, another level is up, another level is up. And these are imaginary lines, right? And anytime an object is lower, resting, basically resting, the bottom of the object is resting lower, that means it's closer to us. So you can see the cup, right, is lower down here. And then the orange, this orange, is up here. So I know the cup visually is in front of the orange, even though it's not covering it, right? Because the orange is resting way back here and the cup is resting over here. So keep that in mind, okay? And that's just right now. Even look up wherever you're sitting, look up, and you're going to see the things that are in front of you um, that are touching the ground, okay? The floor. Anything touching the ground closer to you will be at a lower level, right, than something touching the ground farther from you. So that's just one rule we're going to use right now. Okay, so I'll put this away. We have these drawings. I went over this too. This is the last note I'm going to make. I went over these 5 objects on the drawing of the still life, because these 5 objects that are underlined are the 5 objects that we base all our anything we draw, right, around us: a sphere, pyramid, cube, cone, and cylinder. And once you know those, you could base anything you draw and put the foundation based on these objects. So, okay, there's more information about this I speak about in the other videos. Okay, so working from the imagination. Um, I have my paper, I have my couple of pencils, I have my pencil sharpener, and I know that my pencils have a good eraser in the back. You can also get an eraser like this if you feel you need to, but keep the pencil sharpener close by um, to keep a good, you know, to keep good tools for your work. All right, so we're gonna do in the nature, in the forest. Um, a house, because I want to use the perspective of the point. We're gonna use that, but in nature. So we're gonna make a little house. We're gonna also do trees, ground, grass, maybe mountains. Okay. Um, what else can we do? Maybe flowers or the ground. Um, okay. And then I'm gonna do something today. We're gonna go over many things we have gone over, so it'll be like a refresher or reminder. But I'm gonna bring something. I'm gonna say something I don't think I have said. Um, that also helps us with perspective. Okay. All right. So let's get started. And the fact that it's from imagination is because we will draw it as we go, right? We're not looking at an actual house in the forest. We're coming up with it. So for this, I want you to get the practice of looking at pictures, collecting pictures, things you like, references, especially art, because someone has already gone through the process of visually solving how to represent something rather than a picture, right? So in this case, you'll be looking at things that help you um, solve that um, solve the process of how something can be drawn. Okay, so it will be a good reference for you to start collecting. And then when you out of the top of your head need to draw a flower, right? You can in your mind remember um, those images you have been looking at. Okay, great. And copy too. Okay, copy something you like. Maybe you see a drawing you like. Get a paper out, and it doesn't have to be exactly as you see it. Try to copy how it was done. Okay, that goes in your memory vault. And when you need to draw it out of the top of your head, it comes out easier. So okay, so let's think of the paper horizontally, right? And then think of splitting it from top to bottom. Okay, top to bottom like this. See, I don't know if you can see the line that I'm drawing. I'm gonna make it darker so you can see it. I'm gonna make the line darker so you can see it. Um, that splits the paper top to bottom, and it also will help us. I don't want to complicate things, making it the horizon. Okay, so let me again explain the horizon very quickly. The horizon is always in front of us when you are in the earth, right? We're all in the earth. Rarely there are any people that that goes to space. Even in an airplane, you still have the horizon. So only astronauts are excluded to what I'm gonna say. So what it means having the horizon always in front of us is that when you look up, not sorry, not up, when you look in front of you, when you look straight, there's a line going across like I just did. Okay, follow me here. There's always a line going across like this in front of you. If you go, you're gonna see it. That line divides the sky from the ocean. That's the border of the earth. Okay, so follow me here. We're always standing on the earth. Even if you're standing in a tall building, you look straight, right? You're going to be above the city, looking down, right? Sure. But there is going to be a horizon because the earth at some point has to end, right? Around is round, but it has a horizon, and the sky comes up. So always, there, we always will have that in front of our eyes when we look straight. Okay. Um, there are things blocking it, right? If I'm in the city, I have said this before. If I'm in the city, obviously there are buildings and streets and cars and people that are in front of us, so that we cannot see this line. We can see it when we go to the beach because there's nothing blocking our view. If you're inside a room, obviously you look straight in front of you, you're gonna see, I don't know, a wall or windows or chairs or whatever you type of room you are. But beyond all that, you will have a horizon. Okay. So in that horizon, we're gonna do um let's see, we're gonna do a little dot right here, not too far into the left, but about here. Okay. This is out of my imagination and your imagination, and you can. I say your imagination. We cannot have a conversation this in this live video, but in your drawing, you can freely please add things that I may not be adding on my drawing. That's why I say your imagination too. Or you may want to not shade something that I shade, or let's see what happens. Okay, so this point is going to help us put the house in perspective. A little bit of the house, okay? I'll say a little bit of the house because this will be one side of the house will go in perspective towards this point. Okay, so we have the horizon, we have a point, so this is um, a point that will help us with the perspective. So why don't we do the other side of the house? So I'm gonna do the house about here. I don't want to do it right in the center of the middle. So watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the house. I'm gonna do, and I'll explain you in a moment. I'm gonna do more down than up, you see, and I'm gonna go right here, and I'm gonna go right here, and I'm gonna go right here. And follow me what I'm gonna do now next, okay? So I'm going to, you see the top and bottom line of this side of the house? This is the house, this is one side of the house. The top and the bottom, I'm gonna angle them in a little like that. Just a little, not too much. Going down towards the right. So if I erase this, sorry, if I erase just the excess here, you can see that my lines are in an angle. You see how they're going towards. So basically, my lines, if I continue this line, at some point, look over here, follow me here, they're going to touch this line of the horizon about here. So we're following this point for this side that I'm going to do next. But this other side is also on point perspective. It's just we don't see the point, and I don't want to deal too much with it or confuse you. But this is not a one point perspective drawing if there's two sides going in an angle. Okay. But we're gonna focus on this side right now. Okay. I wanted to make a very interesting house. So with that note, I could get rid of this horizon line that's going through the house because we're not supposed to see this. Now the house is blocking the horizon. You see that? So that's one side of the house. Now we're gonna do the other side of the house, and that means that from this top goes to this line dot. Look, you see that? Do this with me, please. The top of the house here, this corner, there's going to be a line going to this dot. And this dot is our point of perspective. From the dot, we also go to the corner here at the bottom. If you have a ruler, this will be easier. But the fact that we're working from our imagination, and I want to make like a free drawing, um, um, I wanted to do it like this. Okay, so right now we have one side of the house, right, that I simply simply did like this, not to confuse you, right? But I did a few steps like the angles and things that are a little on perspective. But I want to focus on this side to the left. So this whole side, if you think about it, is the side of the house. We just have to stop and decide how big is the house? How big is this wall on the house? It could be about here and it's a long house in perspective. It could be about here and it's a narrower house. You see, if I were to stop here, this is a narrow house. But I want to give it a little more room to the house, so maybe about here. I think this is practical. Okay, so give it some room. Maybe if you're following my same size drawing, this I'll say this is like an inch and a half. So now I can erase the horizon inside of it, right? Because it's blocking it. So you could have a better view of the house. You see that? And I can erase these two lines that I just drew, the top and bottom going on perspective towards the point over here that are the excess. We don't really need this, but we know that the roof goes in an angle. Okay, follow me here. Sorry, my eraser. You see how now it looks more like a house, like a block? But we know that this is going to this dot, and down here, whoop, towards this dot. And okay, all right. This is in the forest, so we're playing with this rule of perspective where you have a horizon, you have a point of reference or perspective point, and then that's where the lines are actually vanishing. Okay, the word is vanishing. These lines are vanishing towards this point. All right, so the next rule, um, let's see how we're going to do the roof. The roof can be actually, follow me here. Um, Coming down like a little roof like this in an angle. So if I make like an inch here, I'll make an inch here. And this line also has to go in perspective. You see how it's lower? So we have a little roof here hanging, and I'm gonna have an angle roof here and an angle roof here. The classic triangle. Okay. Look what I just did. Okay. So I took this side. You know, there's a lot of talking here, but soon it will be more, the nature will be less um, didactical like this about. But I took this side and I divided in half. So two halves. I brought a line up, and that's the line where I put my roof. Now this has to go in perspective. Maybe lower. About here. There you go. I'm erasing the line, but you know that there's a line that goes from the point to an imaginary line that goes like this and cuts across the roof right here like that. Okay? I'm erasing the line I used to divide this in half, and now we have our roof of our house like this. We could do a little window like this here in the middle, rectangle. We could do two windows here on the side, one on this side, one on this side. Okay. We'll do windows here and a door in a moment. Okay. All right. So one window here, one window here. Make them narrow, please. Make them very narrow so the door can fit. The door has to go from the bottom, up. We may not shade this drawing, okay? We may not have time to shade this drawing, but we're gonna have everything we need for the drawing, okay? So there's gonna be a lot of things in this long video, and then we'll shade it if you wish to. You let me know, but you're gonna see how there's a lot going on. So I hope you're as far at this spot. If you see me pausing for like few seconds, or is to give you time to catch up. But those of you watching the video at on your own time, you could obviously pause at any time or go back when you need to. So this little roof besides the roof of the actual house, we're gonna put a pole here going down straight. Got it. And then we're not gonna do another pole. Actually, it's gotta be beyond this line because it's gotta be a little forward. And we're gonna do another pole here. We could make this darker later to make them thicker, but this line is gonna go down maybe about here. So this is kind of like a balcony right here. If I extend this, you see that? And I'll put this in perspective too. So now there's a platform here that is like a balcony to the house. Okay, so let's do a line here, a line here, maybe some lines here like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that? Now it's more understandable. And we could actually raise the house a little. So we could do a pole here, a pole here, a pole here, a pole here, and here. So the house is kind of like raised a little, from the ground. So that will make sense for this little balcony to be there. And then maybe here we could do some rectangles, one lower than the other. I'll do 3 to represent kind of stairs. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's the house. We could build more on the house and obviously put more details on the windows and things like that. But let's move on to what's around the house that would also will be in perspective. So we know everything we draw. Let's say I do a tree back here behind the house. Anything I draw that's being in front of, sorry, behind the house, I draw half of it. If I draw anything half because the house is in front of it, that's perspective because it tells us that the house is in front of that object, okay? The house is closer to us. The object will be behind the house. So the house is in this plane, and anything behind the house that's touching the ground, okay, that's touching the ground, will have to be in a plane above the house, like about here, you know. If I do a tree and the branches or leaves are in front of the house, the tree is in front of the house, then the tree will be right, like I said, closer to us and in front of the house. So we could do that too. Now, the rule says things that are closer are more detailed, okay? More detailed, more defined, because we can see them better, and more darker, okay? So as things get farther away, we're gonna make them lighter, less defined, and lighter, like gray. You know, if you look at the, if you're hiking and you look at the mountains far away, they more likely look gray or bluish light, okay? Because they're very far away. So in pencil, we just make them lighter, okay? And things that are closer, a little darker. So let's maybe do um, another thing we could do is that little S. Remember the, or letter Z, sorry, coming from under the horizon. Watch this, under the horizon, maybe about here. I do look a very elongated letters Z. You see that? So it goes. This is the Z. Now my next letter Z is gonna be closer to this point when I start and farther away when it's down here. And that means, what that means, it creates an organic creek or brook or path. It could be too an organic path because it's curvy, it's not straight. That is also in perspective, okay? It makes us believe that it's the same thickness. It's just that because it's closer, it's thicker, and as it goes away, you got a curve. It's gonna get narrower. Okay, so don't start right at this point because that's too narrow. We haven't reached the horizon. In the horizon is where things vanish, but maybe give it a little distance. Maybe from this point to like here is the thickness of this river or this path. If we're gonna do a path people are walking on, or you know, but you start here and look, I'm gonna start curving, right? Curve about here, because right, I gotta keep this thickness here. I curve. You see the thickness? Maybe this can go narrower here, about here. And now when I come down here, I don't want to keep the same distance. I want to get wider and wider. So I'm gonna go more straight down. You see how I did not follow down here to keep the same distance? The same distance would have been like this. Look, follow me here. This would have been the same distance. You see, I don't want to do that. I want to make it going thicker and thicker and thicker as it's coming closer to me, to us. That makes us believe that we are um, closer because we see the true how wide this is as it goes away narrower in perspective. So this could be a path, you know. We decide, maybe you decide that you want to make it a path or a road. I could make it a river, you know, in front of the house. We'll see, with some rocks and things like that, maybe a bridge. But let's do some trees. And again, we're not gonna shade them. like we're just gonna create the body of them. So definitely a tree could be behind the house. So watch this. This tree, rather than round, is gonna kind of go up. So I'm gonna lightly, I'm gonna kind of make this curly things. But you see how this entire tree is behind the house? Maybe there's another one that's round, more round, behind the house and this tree. So this one is round like this. You see? Now we have two bodies. Later we'll shade them and things like that. I'm starting to maybe get my drawing a little bit um, graphite from my hands or the pencils. Clean your surface. You see how it's starting to look that things are in perspective? Okay, so what's in the horizon way back here, we could cover it with trees. We could hide the horizon with a bunch of trees, but I want to leave that horizon line like there's plains back there. But let's do some mountains and we can define them a little more later. But the mountains will be like bumps that are from different size. So this one goes like this. Look, this bump is a little pointy. Did you see that? Maybe next one that goes back here is a little more lower and wide. That wasn't that low, but you get my idea. You can make it lower. Okay, the next one can be um, smaller. So look, oop, you see how small this one is? I don't mean short, I mean smaller and compact. And look how let's call like the body or legs of these mountains, like the bottom, is in front of this one. So this one is back here. So now I could put something in front of this one on this side. Oop. So something like this. Look, this one looks very pointy. And that's how you do some mountains. You can make them more. I'm gonna make this one less pointy because it stands out too much. So maybe something more softer. But you get the idea. Um, we're gonna have a drawing that's all outlined. So your drawing is gonna look like a coloring book drawing because it's gonna be all lines, just like mine is right now. We're gonna add more lines to define certain things. So saying that you could choose after we're done to get color pencils and color it. You could choose if you like to shade it with your pencil, with your graphite. When you shade, just keep in mind to be gentle in the different amounts of tones, gray levels. So basically, that means there's dark and right, and there's lighter. So build your grays, color grays, softly, so you could have a variety of them. It helps to have a little chart. Okay, so it helps to have a little chart like this that you could refer to. That this will be, look, my 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of gray. We don't want to do this one here. This shuts down the paper. So with the way you I'll remind myself towards the end of the video to teach you quickly how to do a grayscale to use for your drawing. Okay, so we'll talk that about that a little more later. So in the sky, we could have clouds, we could have the sun. Let's deal with the sky so we can move down into the things down here. And that's also because as you build your drawing and when you get to color it later, your hand, look at my hand. If I work the sky, right, I'm done with it. I may color it later, sure, but I'm done drawing it. And then I move my hand down to do the next things here, and then I move my hand down to do the next things here. It's not like I do my things down here and then I move up, because moving up, my hand will be messing up what I just did down here. Okay, so we want to go from left. If you're right-handed, you want to go from left to right and then going down so your hand doesn't damage or mess up what you already done. Okay, so the sun could be maybe about here. I just make a little a circle size about here just to refer to it in the future. I did it very lightly. It's just a little reference. In clouds, you choose to do them as you wish. You could do these random organic, bodies. Um, One tip: not all clouds are the same, obviously. But if your clouds don't look that realistic or there's something funny about, excuse me, about them, what you could do is make the bottom of them a little more flat or straight, okay, and do the rest organic. And making the bottom or the bottom side more flat just makes the clouds be a type of cloud that is more common because the flat side is exactly what is facing the earth. And that's, I'm not, obviously I'm not going to say that's how clouds are very diverse, but there's a type of cloud that, look how I'm going to do the body up here in the top and the bottom flat. So I did a bunch flat and then body. I'm doing a bunch, but you don't have to have this many, but you get the idea. Okay, so when you do your mass representing the cloud in the sky, do the part that's facing the drawing down here, right, a little more flat. It's almost like they're reaching that limit in the in the atmosphere, sorry. Clouds reach only a certain height, right? They cannot go too low. Well, they can go lower depending on the atmospheric pressure, you know. Um, that's why we have fog. Fog is kind of like a cloud. But anyway, I don't want to get too much into it. But if you see clouds and the bottom is flat, they're reaching that point where the temperatures or don't allow them to go more lower. So that's why the bottom we could do it flat. I'm gonna do one more maybe here. I don't know. We'll figure that part later. But you can see the clouds now. Okay, so there's clouds. I'm gonna light them up a little. I don't want to. I'm making them lighter. That's all. I know they're there. I know you can see them a little too, but it's like the sun. You can see there's a circle there, but it's very light. Okay. Trees. Let's do a few more trees, and then I want to make sure that I tell you about the perspective um, thing I want to teach you that I haven't talked about before. Okay. Let's see. Where can we do some trees? I know you have ideas, and you can do them. You can do your trees where you want. Um, I want to hide some of these lines that even though we erased, you can still see them. So maybe a tree could be here, not too high. You see it? And we'll shade it later. But you see how it's resting here and the house is resting here? The tree's higher. That makes this tree farther away from the house and shorter because it's getting smaller. So obviously, I did not say this, but as things go farther away, they get smaller. We know this, okay? People are walking, and the people that are farther away from you look smaller. Cars, too, okay? So we need to make them smaller if they're very, very far away until they vanishing, right? If they're too small. Same thing with these lines. They vanish towards the horizon, towards the vanishing point. So let's do more trees. I mean, we could fill this whole thing with different sized trees, you know? The fact that these two are in the same plane, you see, but this one is bigger, it's just that it's a bigger tree compared to this one because they're in the same plane. But another tree could be closer, like maybe coming out of here, the trunk. You see, branches. And because it's closer, I need to raise the. I'm erasing these mountains because this tree is now going higher. You see, there's a bunch of lines here, but you can see what I'm kind of doing. I raise him because he's supposed to be bigger than the others. He's closer. And some what is it called? Leaves or forestry back here behind the house. Some could be bigger than others. Okay. Maybe a bush here, smaller. Some mass of maybe a bush that is in front of the house in this corner here. Look. Okay. Let's see. I'm thinking. I'm thinking. Careful with the amount of trees, but we'll keep doing a few more. Maybe one over here. We know that the horizon dot is here, but we're gonna erase it because trees are gonna be back here, little ones, small ones, okay? So that's a good way to hide. Not all trees have to be the same size, please. So I'm gonna show you right here how I cover the horizon line with some forestry in different sizes. They don't all have to be the same size, but I do the little trunk just to show you. And it's a good way to hide that where that dot was, you know? Okay. So where the dot for the horizon is, and now the house, basically the house looks in perspective, but we don't have to actually physically draw the point we used to refer to it to put it in perspective, is what I'm saying. Okay, follow me here. So look how there's a bunch of trees that are covering the horizon. This time I cover the horizon. I was hoping to maybe put it on leave, sorry, the horizon as a plane back, but maybe the plane is back here. Look, you can still see, right? But this bush right here covers the corner of the house. Maybe there's some flowers the owner plant over here. There's a bush maybe here. So now I can erase the horizon line. I'm erasing the horizon line going through the trees, okay? I'm not erasing the trees, just the horizon line. And I'll show you this closer so you can see. Um, But yeah, if you are using something to refer to it inside the drawing, or there's something that doesn't look great that you don't like, you could cover it with objects that you're drawing, just like in this case, these trees. Okay. For example, this line that I made on the river or the path to show you, you see how you can still see this line that I erased? I could hide that in the future when I shade this river or path, because I could make lines representing the stream of the water, and that could be one of the lines, and then poof, we won't see it like now we see it where it looks like a mistake, or not a mistake, but a line that you don't want it to be there. So look at all these trees. I don't know why this one is darker like that, but and they're hiding the horizon line. They're just little masses, and they're some are smaller, some are bigger, and I just wanted to do the little trunk. The little trunk at the bottom doesn't have to be like this, the same, but I just did it to make sure you can see them as trees. You get my idea, and then you see why this tree looks in front of all the others, because look, he's resting on a plane lower than these guys. These guys are resting higher than this one, so that means this one is closer to us, and also the size. So because of being closer, I made it what, bigger. Remember, we said that rule. We said things that are closer will may look bigger. And when we shade it, let's say I were to shade. So let me shade this one. So I'm not going to do too much shading right now. But let's say I shade this drawing. I'm going to shade it, look, like that, lightly. And maybe this one is going to be a little darker than this one. And because it's more darker and more defined, maybe there's more leaves that I show here inside, it looks closer also. Okay, I don't want to do the shading now. Let me erase it because it gets confusing. I just want to show the outline so you can still see where things are. And the fact that I'm moving my hand around the drawing, unfortunately dirt is the drawing, you see, and I have to continue erasing to keep it clean. But don't worry, because if you shade it, um, you don't have, obviously you don't have to be erasing what you're going to shade later, because it's going to be dark like that. Okay, anyway, I wanted to show you the objects that we have in the drawing by outlining them before we, look at the sun is here more defined so you can see it. The clouds, I'm going to take my time. When you do the bumps of the clouds, they don't have to be all, there could be a big bump. They don't all have to be going small. I'm defining the clouds so you can see them better. But you see, cloud, 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 cloud. Maybe a little small one over here. All right, the windows can have a line. I'm going to define them a little more, the outline, so they're more clearly defined. That's all I'm doing. Same thing with the house. Sorry, same thing with the door. And the windows right in the middle, they could be split like this. Tux, 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 tux. Because the windows will always have that, right? You could raise them and lower them, but they will have the middle part where that defines both panels of the window. Okay. Um, there could be a little path that I'm gonna make that out coming from the stairs. You know, we could do a little bridge here that goes over the river, or again, this could be a path. Doesn't have to be a river. Okay. Um, when you shade, this all could be grass. You know, this path here could be grass and stuff. But right now we have a drawing, kind of like in coloring book format, like lines and lines. That kind of makes sense. What are we gonna do in this paint? You'll see. So, okay. Again, I'm gonna go over the things in perspective to review. In nature, things that are um, farther away will be smaller than things that are closer. So if you have the same object, right? A car, which cars have different sizes, but more likely they'll be the same, type of size. They're not that different. A car that is smaller, more likely will be farther away. Trees. There are big trees, there are smaller trees. Okay. The way to make them in perspective is where they are resting. Okay. If one is resting here, right, in a plane that's very low, and another one is resting higher, the trunk, right, is coming from the ground in a higher plane. If these are the planes where my hand is, um, the one higher will be farther away. Okay. The one lower means it's closer to us. The trunk coming from a plane that is lower on the paper means it's closer to the viewer, us. The other thing is things get more details as they're closer to us, right? We bring something to our eyes and we can see the details better. Something that's farther away gets blurry and you cannot see it clearly. And because of that, then it gets lighter in color and maybe bluish, gray. The reason why we see things farther away a little more is because there's more air between the object and our eyes, right? If I look at this pencil here, between my eye and the pencil, there's air, but the air is is clear, so I can actually see the pencil. Well, what happens if the pencil is really, really far? I'm talking really, really, really far away. It's gonna get very small. I'm gonna barely see it. But for big objects like mountains, maybe trees, maybe something really big that's very far away, then they start getting bluish. And that's because the air in between the mountain and your eyes there's so much of it, right? You can now there's more distance, so there's more air in between your eyes and the object. So those particles do take a color or tone of kind of blue. Okay, so that's why the sky is blue too. People want, why is the sky blue? The air, the gases that are in the air accumulated. I'm talking like a lot create the color blue. So now you learn, that's something I don't know if you knew. Um, and then when you take a picture from space, someone takes a picture from space and the Earth is blue. Well, that's also because of the water and the oceans, and which reflect the sky, and we're in the blue planet. Okay. Great. So we have a drawing already here. We're gonna add more things, but so far, look at all this. There's a lot of stuff. Okay. I spoke about perspective in nature with objects being far away, plane in the drawing, right? Level of detail. If it's more detailed, it's closer to you. If it's less detail, farther away. I also said the plane is very important. Imagine there's lines coming across here, going up like the pencils I'm putting down. So the object coming out of this plane up here will be farther away than the object coming out of this plane down here will be closer to us. Okay. Um, but then when it comes to the house, okay, I'm repeating myself here. When it comes to the house, we made two sides that you can see. You can see the front, right, where the door is on the side, and then you can see this side. But the way when we constructed the side, the top and bottom went in an angle down towards, look, a point vanishing here in the horizon. There was a line that helps us define the horizon. Okay. Yeah, think of horizon as the sea level. When people say, "Oh, that's sea level," well, yeah, the horizon should always be around the sea level. Mountains go a little higher, obviously, um, but the horizon is right here where these pencils are. And when you look at this line down here, it's very obvious. This line that I'm going over my pencil kept on going up, 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 imaginarily. This is drawn here because it's the house, but imaginarily I drew a line here that doesn't need to be drawn, that goes from here to this point about here where the point was in the horizon, the vanishing point. And then we drew a line also from this point up here to the roof. And what that helps us is see the house in perspective. Okay, in perspective. Remember, it's very clear in this drawing here of the house. It's pretty obvious because we made it more emphasized. Look, the bottom too. There's the other point here. And the roof. Okay. But, with all these drawings we've been doing, I hope you refer to them and look at them frequently, and you can actually also make new drawings. Okay, the idea is that you can actually make new drawings um, with the information and knowledge that now you have, um, and you could come up with another drawing out of the top of your head. This came out of the top of my head, and you have your own drawing because you could now decide if this is going to be a path. We could do a fence, on the path. You could um, put flowers in the ground here, okay, if you wish to. So, um, all right. Somebody else may not want the flower. Somebody else may want um, like a little chicken coop. I don't know, and just draw some chickens around in this house. We could do that, and then the little chickens that are far away will be smaller. We could play around with that. Um, but there's something I want to do. That's why I left this space here, and I'm thinking you know already by now that that's why I've been a little hesitant, but I want to get to it. Okay, the reason why I left this space open here. And even if we didn't, even if I have drawn some trees or something, I will erase part of them. Like I'm gonna have to probably erase a little bit of the house here for me to put something here. Okay, what am I gonna put here? All right, I'm gonna put here a big flower, a few big flowers, and you wonder why are they so big? We'll see. And then maybe some flowers in the ground here to connect the flowers from the ground to the huge flower that I'm gonna do right here. Okay, so let's do that, and I'll explain you why I'm doing this. All right, so we're gonna do very clearly one petal here. We're gonna do one petal here, same size. You see how I took over the bush that I drew here? I have to make them darker so you can see them at home in the video. Another petal goes here. It's gonna come out of the paper, okay? That's okay. It's gonna get out of the paper. I'll explain you why. It's gotta have to come out of the paper. It's too big. And I want it to be big. So there's three petals, one, two, three, and there's another three, okay? The way you're gonna do the other three, this is gonna be a lily flower. It's gonna be behind this tree. These three petals is what I mean. So we have three petals here. And now I'm gonna do three more, one between each one of these two. So one here that gets out of the paper and we don't know where it's going. You see? One over here that maybe leads towards the house. So I have to erase this tip of the house for the petal to show. And one here we don't see because it's getting out of the paper. Okay? So that's our lily flower. Look how big that is. So a lily has things coming out of the middle, right? Like the little stems. But the petals are curvy too. So we're going to do some lines inside the petals like this. See, I did two lines here. One, two, maybe 1, 2, 3 for this one. 1, 2, 3 for this one back here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and then the inside of the lily needs to be emphasized here, like a little coop, like a little ball or coop where these little stems are gonna come out. I'm gonna do about, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them. You want me to bring this closer? So you can see how the flower is done. This we could shade later, right? So the little stems are gonna be very thin, one, but I'm gonna make them thin by making them not just one line, but two lines to show the thickness. You see how there's two lines, one close to the other. That's just that shows the thickness of the little stem, and on the top of that, there's like a little ball like this, like a little ball like that. So we're gonna do maybe 5 more of those. That's one, two. Maybe there's a big one here. Three, four, three, four, five. I'm gonna put one down here, and the sixth one goes all the way up here. Okay. Look at that. It looks, I know, it looks like maybe they don't have to be that much emphasized. They look like little snakes coming out of the center, but that's how the flower is. So let it get in focus. Um, right about here. And you can see what I meant. You see how the flower is getting cut out of the sides, okay? Doesn't have to be that flower, okay? It could be a rose if you want to do a rose, or um, now the fact that I did a lily, I'm gonna do a bunch of other lilies or the branches coming out of here or some petal. I don't want to isolate her only here, so maybe another petal from another one is coming back here. Look, okay? You got to think of that too. Of if you do something, you could tie it to the whole drawing by adding continuations to it. So you see how there's another tip of a petal here from another flower, maybe another petal here from another flower, not this one that's down here. So now I'm gonna do a smaller way because very gotta be very smaller in the ground here. A little lily on the ground. I'm not sure if this flower is bigger, like a bush. Let's see. Yeah, it's taller. Yeah, it goes up. So sorry. So we're gonna have the leaves, and the flower comes out of here very small. You can barely see it. So I just kind of made a doodle out of the shape of what the flower could be. You see, you can barely see it. It doesn't make much sense, but it represents something that is far away here. And I'm gonna do different sizes as if it's coming out of the bank of the river. But the flower is here. So another flower way back here in the, like a little garden, you see. So I'm gonna pull this back to let you show you how this is becoming now. And I'm not talking right here in this focus. I'm talking way back here. It's becoming like uh, um like a garden, okay? And you'll see how these are doodles. So look, I'm doing a long leaf going up. Let me show this closer. See the long leaves? Another long leaf going up like this. And then when I go up like this in a line, I do like one, two, three, four. That's our lily. It's just that it's so far away. I don't have to do too much detail. Remember that rule? Look at this doodle I'm gonna do right here. That's a flower. I just have to do maybe some leaves coming out here like very thin and maybe extra ones. because I don't have to do details. Look, they come up, another flower here, maybe a doodle like that. I'm just showing you the process of how this doodle represents a flower. I don't have to go too crazy about it because it's far away. As long as I give the idea of what is representing, I'm good. Don't doodle like a circle. I mean, you could probably do that. Yeah, sorry. But look at the leaves, how they become smaller. I'm gonna stop maybe about here. See, that's one, maybe, and the flower is like right there, that little doodle. So we're gonna fill this space with lines and leaves and make sure your pencil is sharpened. That's the flower, another single flower here without the leaves. Um, by your pencils being sharpened, you could get more thinner. But look how now in front of the house, or sorry, on the side of the house, there's a garden. Look, full of flowers. These are the flowers. These dots are now representing almost the flowers, like right here. Now, why did um I'm gonna pull this back so you can see how that looks like a garden on the side of the house. So we're gonna stop soon because I think this drawing, even though it's not shaded, is very busy. But the lesson today, in perspective, I'm gonna want to go over. Well, we'll go over all the things that the perspective created. So this is a path more than a river. When you shade it, you could shade it lighter or darker than what's next to it. So if you do the ground kind of shaded dark, just leave this path lighter. And if this is lighter, then you could do this darker. And that's actually what happens in nature. If you've been walking in nature, you can see that the path you're walking on is either lighter than the ground around you or outside of the path, or the other way around. The path is darker and the ground around it is just that's exactly what makes the path be visible and different. If it was the same color, right, or then there's no path. Okay, so especially with disturbed ground or dirt. Um, Great. So we talked about things farther away having less detail, being smaller, being lighter, being resting or touching the ground at a higher level on the drawing, levels being planes that are lined up like this. And then we made this flower garden next to the house. And I'm gonna focus on it again to show you how non-detailed it is. It's doodles, but doodles in the shape of what the lily flower will be. Now, why the lily flower? Because there's a huge lily flower in the corner of our drawing. Look, that is our garden. Those little doodle messes. But you can see why they look like lilies because you can still discern a longer leaf, right, coming up, or two, and like a shaped doodle that does represent like a flower. So our eyes are amazing, and the viewer's eyes, when they look at your work, are gonna complete the drawing for you. Just always keep that in mind. We learned that in watercolor. That's the magic of watercolor. Good watercolors are basically just that. The artist depends on the viewer to complete the picture. Okay, it looks like a little mess, but that mess in our eyes can be discerned as, oh, that is a water lily, or that is a fish, or that is a person, even though it looks like a doodle or a stain in the paper. So that's the magic. Always keep that in mind. You don't have to do too much details in the things to make them look just exactly as they are if they were close to you. These flowers are not close to us. They're farther away in the drawing, so that's why they look like doodles. We don't have to push too much detail in them. There is one that does have detail, which is this one in the corner, okay? That's a huge lily. And I'm going to go over of why that is. Okay, so one of the last rules of perspective, and this is more about creating art or photography. Next time you take a picture, do this, and you see this in beautiful photography, but it's not that common. Is the terminology? Follow me here, of having a background, right? Everybody knows what the background is. It's what's really far away or behind the subject. The middle, the foreground, sorry. So if there is a background, there is a foreground. And that's basically all you need. When we take pictures, right, of someone or a group of people, there's the subject, they more likely will be the foreground. And behind them, there is a background. Okay. Now, you could have a middle ground. So you don't see this much often. It's more likely in nature pictures, or, right, pictures that evoke some type of emotion or something. Um, but then you have three. Follow me here again. Let's mention them. We have the background, the middle ground, and then we have the foreground, meaning what's in front of everything else. And when you have all three of them, each one really stands out for what their role is. Okay. So usually you have two: background, foreground, right? Background, foreground. Right now, pull your phone, look at a picture you save or you took. More likely there is a background, and the foreground more likely is the subject, right? The subject that you took a picture of. um, but the background could be the subject, okay? And there's something in front of it because it's something that's far away. If I take a picture of the Eiffel Tower, right, in the city, and the subject is my Eiffel Tower, that could be very far away, right? So in this drawing, follow me here. In this drawing, the background will be the clouds, the mountains, right? The sun, all of these things, the trees, even the trees are in the background. So all of this is the background. And the background plays a role more emphasized because now we have three terms in this drawing. We have the background, we have the foreground, and we have the middle ground. The middle ground is the house. So now the house really got emphasized as the middle ground. It's right in the middle. So we have the background, the house is the middle ground, and look at the flower is the foreground. So when you have foreground, when you have all three, and I'm sorry if I'm getting a little confusing, when you have all three of them, one, two, three, all aspects of the picture, usually each one is very clear and emphasized, meaning we can clearly see this flower here is very close to us and is in the foreground. We can clearly see the house is in between everything else, like a sandwich between bread, whatever you're gonna eat. And then the trees, mountains, clouds, sun, sky is in the background. So look look now at magazine pictures, perhaps. Not that you're not an artist, you could have taken pictures maybe like this, but usually in pictures of nature or magazines of nature or things like that, they do the foreground thing. Um, or look at movies. Movies do it all the time too. Movies do it all the time too. So in a movie, for example, you have a scene. You have a scene with a person walking around, and the city is behind them, and that's it. But sometimes, have you seen a movie where you can tell in a movie that someone is watching someone, and the director is making you be that person? It's almost like you're sneaking and looking behind someone in the picture. So more likely, look at that scene again. There is a foreground. Okay, the foreground will be the corner of the wall or some trees or some branches. The middle ground is the person you're looking at, and obviously there's a background behind. So they're using this technique of the representation to show you that someone is kind of like sneaking between, in this case will be the flowers, right, to look at the house. But that's not the point in this picture. The point, this is more artistic in this one. And I'm gonna finish with this. Maybe you get a National Geographic or a Nature magazine, and you see a nice picture of a river and mountains. So the river or the lake is the middle ground. The background is the mountains and the sky, and then what you have in the foreground is rocks in the river, right? Because the photographer kind of went down and gave you that perspective. So usually when you do this too, and this is what I want to end with, when we use these three aspects, your picture by default, okay, your picture by default, it's in perspective, is emphasized in perspective a lot, okay. So that's the lesson today. We learn all these little tricks, and I know it's a lot of information. And if you have followed me with the other videos, um, this have been accumulating. It's not too much for you at once, um, but I try to make it as simple as possible. We use some line perspective for the house, right, with the horizon and the lines. We use some nature perspective with the trees and right. And then we use the foreground, middle ground, background technique. Not every picture has that, okay? But the fact that we used it make the picture even more in perspective, more in kind of like if there's an atmospheric distance from the flower to the house and from the house to the background, and the house is in the middle, okay? When someone, yeah, and in cartoons too, or movies, when someone is in the forest and they pull, like my hands right now, they're pulling away the branches to see something or discover a cabin or a house or something, or they pushing away the leaves, right? So the pushing away of the leaves, that's the foreground. Then they reveal the house, which is the middle ground, and then the background, it's whatever is behind the house, mountains or trees or whatever. There will always be a background, and there will always be a middle ground, sorry, a foreground. um, it's just how, if it's just how much you emphasize maybe something in the middle in this case, which will be the middle ground. Great, so I'll leave you with that. I know it's a lot of information, more than drawing maybe, but you have in front of you a drawing that you could look carefully, pause my video, uh, pause it right here for as long as you want from now on, and then you could erase, because we only did line drawing. So this is a line drawing where we just did lines. We define things by their outline. So let's say I didn't like this window. I'm gonna, you can erase it because we haven't colored it, we haven't shaded. I'm gonna draw it again, but you get my point. You can you can fix things around if you wish. You see, there's this line that I couldn't erase too much. You can still see it. So maybe in front of this, to cover this line, I could make, I don't know, a bush again that's gonna cover this line. You know, um, more trees here to cover the line a little. You follow me? Or when you color, if I didn't do these bushes right, and you still see the line, when I color, if you choose to color, or the green color or whatever color will cover that line. Or if you shade, if I were to shade, you won't see the line because you'll be shading it. So you're left with the drawing like this, and it's your choice. If you want to shade it, color it. um, it's beautiful. Yes, it looks like a coloring book page, but you could leave it like that too if you wish. Something you could do, okay, I'll finish with this. is you can actually um, go over the lines you wish, to keep with pen, a very dark black pen. So if you go over the lines in pen, dark pen, right? Let it sit, wait a few, maybe wait half hour, and then erase the pencil. I say wait because if you erase right after you put the ink, sometimes the ink hasn't dried and you create a mess. Trust me, because then you smash the ink. So you could go over in ink. Let me give you an example. I'm gonna do it in this one just to show you. Um, let me see. Does this pen? I don't know what color this pen is. Um, oh, right here, I have it. So this is a black pen, but imagine I get closer here. If I go over my drawing in pen, black pen, my drawing will be darker, right? See that? And then I erase my pencil later. I'm gonna wait because if I erase it right now, I more likely will mess up my drawing because the pen may not be dried enough. But if I were to complete my entire drawing like this, look how dark that is. It will be beautiful just by itself, and it will be an ink, what's called an ink drawing. Um, and then I can color it and refill it, and it's more clear. Okay, so that's another option. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, maybe I'll do that. So get a black pen and go over every line, and then wait, and then erase what you don't want of the pencil, and then yeah, then you have a drawing that beautiful. Okay, so that's your choice. You have many choices, but from what we have learned, you can have very confident three choices. So again, one will be to use color pencil and color it. That's option one. The other option is with the pencil that you drew with, shade it. Right? So I can shade and make this wall, right? This tone. Now, when you shade it, remember that things that are far away should be lighter. So when you're shading and you do the trees, especially the trees, make sure your trees that are far away are lighter than the ones that are in front of you, in front of them. So you see how this wall in the house just got shaded? The mountains, sorry, will be lighter because they're very far away. And maybe this whole ground is darker. Look, because that's if I choose to shade. Um, and your third option, but the whole drawing will be shaded, obviously. And your third option is to go over in ink, wait a little, and then erase all the pencil. So then you're left with your ink drawing. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed the class, and I hope I didn't overwhelm you with too much information. Um, but this is an accumulation of a lot of the information we have learned in the past, drawings and videos. And yeah, keep drawing, um, keep creating art, especially from your imagination. Yes, look at things and draw them, but use your imagination too of what you learn from those observations. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. And I'll see you soon on the next one. Stay safe.